Thank you for joining us for this look at the best original reporting from KPBS News. This week, I'm Maya Trabulsi. And in this newscast, the crisis in our child care system. Why are the people we trust to care for our youngest kids so underpaid and overworked? And putting a face on the pandemic, a local Navy sailor is among the worst cases of COVID-19 here in San Diego. And taxpayers versus the NFL, the lawsuit that demands payback for the Chargers leaving town. But first, we start with a story touching communities on both sides of the border. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado tells us about the journalists murdered in Tijuana, both victims of a recent surge of targeted violence.
También aquí para pedirle apoyo, ayuda y justicia laboral, porque hasta temo por mi vida.
This is journalist Lourdes Maldonado in 2019, pleading with Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador for help because she feared for her life. On Sunday, she was gunned down outside her home in Tijuana. She's the second well-known reporter murdered in the border city in less than a week. Margarito Martinez was shot and killed outside of his Tijuana home on January 17th.
I really want to say to you that my country, my city is safe for everyone. But it isn't true. No more.
Aline Corpus has been a border region journalist for over 20 years. Maldonado and Martinez were her friends. She's devastated over their deaths. She says reporters in the region are feeling very vulnerable.
I feel hopeless. And later what happened? Lourdes was shot. So no, we don't feel safe in Tijuana.
She says Maldonado had just attended Martinez's vigil and funeral, and his death hit too close to home.
She was very sad. I think she wasn't okay.
Reporters there have to navigate what no reporter should.
This time is very difficult to us. We have to cover and feel at the same time. So it's not easy.
Natalie Southwick is with the Committee to Protect Journalists, a nonprofit advocacy organization for reporters. She says Maldonado is the third journalist to be murdered in Mexico this month.
Almost this sense of both frustration but exhaustion. You know, Mexico is and continues to be the deadliest country in the hemisphere for journalists.
She says the problem, there's no political will to protect reporters and hold people accountable, even when reporters ask for help, like Maldonado. CPJ has documented and is investigating 18 in the last 2 years.
That's an average of one every 6 weeks. That's a horrifying statistic, and that's not something that can continue. We're going to lose access to information. There's already parts of the country that are effectively news deserts.
Aline says while she and her colleagues will carry on their work, they can't help but wonder the obvious.
We have a question in our minds. Who could be the next one?
Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
Growing up in foster care can bring a lot of instability for local kids, and that's why many fought to keep open a local campus that combines a stable home and education. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne updates us on the future of San Pasqual Academy.
Advocates and supporters of San Pasqual Academy are celebrating after the County Board of Supervisors voted unanimously to keep SPA's doors open.
This essentially is a big victory, being that a year ago, it didn't even seem like we were going to be able to stay open, keep the academy open past 6 months. And we did that. And then we now have gone to another level of ensuring that the academy is open indefinitely. So big day, big victory.
Shane Harris with the People's Association of Justice Advocates has helped with the efforts to keep the foster youth campus open. Last year, the state of California informed the facility that their program would come to an end because of a new federal law that discourages funding for congregate living in foster care facilities. The plan approved by the supervisors would transition the academy into a multi-purpose campus for foster youth. Harris says Tuesday's vote is only the beginning of the decision-making for the future of SPA.
Well, the future of San Pasqual is that it will continue to serve foster youth in the system. But part of the vision that the Board of Supervisors are looking at is obviously the expansion.
Although San Pasqual Academy will continue serving foster youth, Harris says spa staff isn't celebrating just yet.
Staff are still probably feeling a little anxious and a little concerned because they work for New Alternatives Incorporated. And if we're talking about the repurposing of now a newly multi-purpose facility, then we're talking about new RFPs, which essentially means that all these people do not have guaranteed jobs.
New Alternatives Incorporated has been managing the academy for the last 20 years. Bid supervisors will solicit bids for new management in order to add and expand the services offered at San Pasqual Academy. Services that board chairman Nathan Fletcher says have one goal in mind.
To serve more kids in more ways and truly continue a great legacy of what San Pasqual was meant in an enhanced way.
Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
For kids who are too young for school, daycare is often the only option for parents. But that means sending them off to providers who are increasingly overworked and underpaid. KPBS investigative reporter Claire Tregesser looks at how the pandemic only made things worse.
Earning a college degree takes years of hard work.
In May 2021, Allie had just graduated from SDSU with a degree in child and family development and went looking for her first job. She was hired immediately by a local preschool.
This is the first and only job I applied to, and it ended up working out.
But her college education did little to prepare her for what she ended up walking into.
So technically, I would have a co-teacher, and we would split up the children 6 and 6. But with where I'm at right now, I am keeping all 12 kids together.
6 months into the job, Allie and her classroom of toddlers are left with a rotating cast of substitute teachers. Allie doesn't want to reveal her full name or the name of her school to protect her job.
We put name tags on the children so that we can help the subs identify them and they can actually refer to them by their name.
Plus, sometimes the subs themselves call in sick or just don't show up.
I've noticed how attached they are to me, and when other subs come in, it's kind of like stranger danger.
Preschools and childcare centers everywhere are dealing with a massive staffing shortage. On job search websites, there are more than 200 local childcare openings, some even offering signing bonuses. Providers told KPBS they can't find qualified people to hire. The problem is much worse than the general labor shortage trend. Childcare providers have to compete with retailers and restaurants for workers, but those other sectors can raise starting wages. Plus, people are still worried about catching COVID from unvaccinated toddlers.
We're asking so much for, $12 an hour when you could be making more at McDonald's or, Starbucks or Target, where you don't have to do such an emotionally demanding job.
Caitlin McLean is with the Center for the Study of Childcare Employment at UC Berkeley.
If we want to make sure that families have access to these services, we have to make sure that this is a good job that people want to do. And we have not been doing that.
On average, California preschool teachers make less than half of what kindergarten teachers make, and more than a third of childcare workers live below the federal poverty line. Raising pay for these workers might seem like an easy solution, but there's a domino effect. First off, state regulations require childcare centers to have one teacher for every 4 infants and one for every 6 toddlers, which means a lot of staff. So if they pay more, they'd have no choice but to raise rates for parents, which many can't afford.
There's no way that I can continue to ask parents to pay out of pocket at a higher weekly rate than I already do. I'm already within market rate.
Holly Weber owns Magic Hour Preschool in Mira Mesa.
It's just running a fine line between parents choosing to not even go back to work because their childcare expenses are so exorbitant.
People, of course, are going to apply to jobs where you aren't being recognized.
Like Allie, Brianna Mendoza also recently graduated from SDSU with an early childhood education degree. But she has no interest in working at a preschool. She instead is looking at jobs where she would work one-on-one with children in crisis which would pay $21 to $22 an hour.
I mean, you are constantly like running. I'm telling you, like I would be sweating in the classrooms, like whether I was changing diapers, carrying babies, feeding them, sweeping. Like it wasn't just childcare in there. It was like sweeping, like housework, doing laundry.
Meanwhile, Allie, who is solo teaching at a local preschool, is trying to hold on, but isn't sure how long she wants to continue.
Considering I'm doing the job of 2 teachers right now at minimum wage, it's really discouraging.
Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
Some of the most read stories this week at kpbs.org are all about the pandemic. The federal government is making N95 masks available to those who need them. We have a story letting you know how to get them for free. Also, California lawmakers are considering a bill that would require COVID-19 vaccinations at all public schools. And this story from KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh on a local sailor dealing with one of the worst cases for the Navy.
Ryan Denny is on life support in San Diego after testing positive for COVID-19 in late December. His wife Tammy says he deteriorated quickly. He's now in a medically induced coma.
I call it a tornado. I feel like the analogy of a tornado is pretty fitting. It just picks somebody off takes one house off the block and leaves the rest and nobody knows why.
COVID-19 has plagued the Navy. The disease spreads rapidly in the close confines aboard ship. Though of the roughly 11,000 current cases among active duty sailors, only 5 are hospitalized. Denny is among the most serious. The 29-year-old avionics technician was stationed at Naval Base Coronado. He has a 2-year-old daughter.
As soon as he was placed on the ventilator, she had a really hard time. She would just ask me to call him, and I had to explain that we can't. And she's 2 years old, going on 20 though. She's smart. She understands now that she'll tell you, Daddy's at the doctor's, Daddy is sleeping, he's getting better.
The family was in the middle of transferring to an Air Force base in Oklahoma when this happened. Their furniture is already packed. Tammy is staying with family, commuting back to the hospital in San Diego from 100 miles away.
We just want prayers, and even if, this brings one more prayer, I know he would really appreciate it, and so would our family.
For the family of one sailor, the message is the pandemic is not over. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
KPBS recently got special access to the face-to-face outreach used to get our homeless population off the street. Alexandra Rangel shows us the moments of progress and setbacks that make up this delicate work.
One of the spots that we're going to first is going to be G Street and 17th.
This is the first stop of the day for CityNet, the city's latest homeless outreach team. A handful of people in hard hats carried snack packs and iPads ready to reach out. They made their way through a hole in a fence to get to an encampment that sits on a hillside above Interstate 5 in downtown San Diego.
Hi, CityNet Homeless Outreach. Is anyone home?
Good morning. 6 makeshift tents are pitched here. All are homes belonging to someone. A pair of CityNet staffers visit each tent, hoping someone is home and ready to receive help.
Are you shelter ready? Shelter?
Oh, no. Karen Garner is a case manager with CityNet. She says this is their 3rd time visiting this encampment.
Yeah, we've been here about 3 times. So this area in itself is a little bit shelter resistant, but we try to come in and we just continue to try to work with them. We try to see what we can do.
One homeless man accepted a snack pack but was not ready to go to a shelter. But that's okay. Garner says today's no could be tomorrow's yes. Garner says that's the beauty of their program. They continually engage with individuals living on the street and they build a rapport with them until they finally are willing to accept help.
We find 80 to 85% of the folks are very interested. They're just saying, please help us understand how to work the system, to navigate it. We would love to not be living here on the side of the freeway, and that has been consistent in our experience here as well.
Brad Fieldhouse is the executive director with CityNet. He's helping lead the efforts in San Diego to help unsheltered people living along the state's freeways. It's the first agreement of its kind in the state, and it's part of Governor Gavin Newsom's $22 billion California comeback plan to battle homelessness. Caltrans hopes to eventually clear these dangerous areas where homeless people are camping out. They don't just want to clear people out and put up signs.
Does it sound like they're there?
Caltrans meets with CityNet crews daily and escorts them to each encampment. An area is not cleared out until CityNet has had the sufficient time to get people into shelter.
We're here to make sure that these clients know that we value them. We're here to help them in any aspect.
For some encampments, it may take weeks before individuals accept help. Since the team started working in San Diego, they've engaged with more than 460 homeless people. More than 100 have accepted help, which includes case management and connecting with behavioral health services. But only 11 people have been successfully placed in shelters. Garner says it can be disappointing when a person doesn't want to accept help.
They have to be ready to make the change and to get off the streets.
I was homeless when I got him.
Catherine was camping in a canyon along the 805 South. After a decade of living on and off the streets, she was finally ready for some stability.
I'm doing it for my daughter and my grandsons too.
Catherine has 2 pups she wasn't willing to leave behind. Fortunately, she found a shelter that took all 3 of them in.
And it happened at the last moment. Like, they were saying, no, we don't have a spot. And then at the last moment, they said yes. So I knew that it was a God thing, too. Can you give Levins to the puppy? Can you give Levins to...
She walks her dogs every morning and visits her friends that live near her shelter. She says the transition hasn't been easy, but...
I'm determined and,
and
they're worth it, and my family's worth it,
You're worth it.
And I'm worth it.
Yeah, you're worth it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Garner says seeing people like Catherine make a positive change is what it's all about.
So being able to see her and get that follow-up from her, just makes this job even better. It makes it even, makes the stories come to fruition, and it encourages us to just continue to keep going.
The city will evaluate the program's success rate in June and decide if the contract will be extended. Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen spent the week looking at efforts to get people out of their cars. We have 2 of his stories, from a big housing boost at the new trolley stop in Claremont to an update on how people are using a major bike lane project.
The 3.5-acre site has already been cleared for 156 apartments, along with commercial space and a public plaza. But the site's new owner, Encinitas-based development firm Zephyr, is aiming to more than double the density and build 350 apartments. That's great news to Matthew Vasilakis of the nonprofit Climate Action Campaign, which advocates for more transit-oriented development.
Our region invested $2 billion into a new trolley line that can help us meet our climate action plan goals by getting people closer to that infrastructure and out biking and walking and enjoying a higher quality of life with more economic opportunity. That's climate safe. So, we really need to capitalize on that. And by building more homes near transit, we're going to be able to meet our climate action plan goals.
But the new plans are also likely to spark opposition from neighbors who for years have sought to limit the density and height of development near the new trolley stations. The 11-mile extension of the Blue Line connects Claremont to UCSD, University City, downtown, the South Bay, and the border. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News. Like the ones on 30th Street and North Park will entice more residents to bike instead of drive. The bike counters here were switched on less than a week ago, and they've already logged more than 1,700 trips. Stephen Vance of the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition says that data is debunking the myth that bike lanes are wasteful because no one uses them.
And as we build out the network and build more and more of these really high-quality facilities like that, we are certain that more and more people will start riding, and so we'll be able to measure that progress. And if we aren't seeing the progress, then we'll be able to make course corrections along the way.
The city plans on installing more bike counters along key bike routes, but hasn't settled on specific locations yet. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
It's a big weekend for football, but here in San Diego, the real matchup might be coming soon to a courtroom. Matt Hoffman tells us about the new lawsuit against the NFL 5 years after the Chargers left town.
Start off and give you a big picture.
Former San Diego City Attorney Mike Aguirre is leading the effort to sue the NFL and its 32 teams, arguing that the league violated its own relocation rules in allowing the Chargers to move to Los Angeles.
The actions that they took to give us the impression that they might stay were really not honest.
Former Deputy San Diego City Attorney Maria Severson says for more than 50 years, the city spent millions in subsidies and stadium upgrades. But when the Chargers left, it was the NFL who received a more than $600 million relocation payout.
The Chargers leave and pay all the other teams, but they don't pay anything to San Diego. Those teams were unjustly enriched. They got something for allowing the Chargers to leave San Diego, and the city of San Diego got nothing. This lawsuit seeks to correct that.
The lawsuit was filed on behalf of San Diego resident Ruth Henricks, who owns the Huddle restaurant in Mission Hills.
We thank everybody that comes in here. Thank you for supporting us because you're keeping us going.
That was from an interview with her in 2020. Henricks' attorneys are confident in their suit. They point to a recent multi-million-dollar settlement that the NFL made with the city of St. Louis over the Rams relocation.
If St. Louis is good enough to recover $790 million, San Diego is good enough to recover their losses as well.
The city of San Diego is not involved in this suit, but San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria and City Attorney Mara Elliott issued a statement saying that suing the NFL is a costly and uphill battle, but with taxpayers in line to benefit, they're hopeful for success. Part of that uphill battle includes liability waivers that were signed by the city in the early 2000s, but attorneys argue that they are not valid anymore because relocation wasn't on the table then.
How can you waive something in the future, which you don't know, and bind future city governments?
There's a court hearing scheduled for early July. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
A local movie theater that had to move and rebuild during the pandemic is finally reopening. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando tells us about the preview weekend for Digital Gem Cinema at its new downtown home.
During the pandemic, Digital Gem Cinema lost the lease to its El Cajon Boulevard venue, but found a new home at UC San Diego's planned Market and Park Extension facility. Last June, I had to wear a hard hat to visit the site and could only imagine what it might look like when finished. But earlier this week, exhibitions manager Moises Esparza revealed what a difference a few months can make.
Yeah, so we're in the new Digital Gem Cinema. It's a totally new vibe and energy. We're in the East Village now, really close to a trolley station. Same type of content, but just a different setting.
A different setting that includes a new projector, better sound, more seats, a bigger screen, a full-fledged concession stand, and more lobby space.
I'm just really excited to share the space, and it's been truly astounding to see the progress that we've made in just a matter of months. I think we're ready to screen movies.
The cinema's ready, but not the entire building, much of which still needs work.
The first level has a grand staircase that's still being worked on. There's a theater space downstairs that's still under construction.
Construction has been slowed by various supply chain issues. The new projector, for example, barely arrived in time for the cinema's preview opening this weekend.
This pandemic has taught us that patience is the most important thing of all. At some point, you just stop obsessing over these little details and just focus on coming up with plan Bs and plan Cs and plan Ds.
So, the exit sign is still too bright, and the seats you sit in may be changed before the official opening in a couple months. But for this weekend, Esparza is excited that the cinema's ready to assume the role of a Sundance Film Festival satellite screen.
We're part of only a small handful of independent cinemas throughout the United States that were selected by Sundance to host these in-person screenings outside of Park City. But Sundance is fully virtual now. So the satellite screens are the only in-person screenings for Sundance.
The big day for the cinema this weekend will be Saturday.
We're going to do a small reception outside. We'll have a photo booth, red carpet, step and repeat. So we're going to try to create kind of like a festival experience at our new venue. The filmmakers love screening their films in front of audiences, and they want that response, that in-person response.
Esparza also loves that communal experience of sharing films in person. He's especially looking forward to screening Sirens with the filmmakers on hand for a post-film discussion. The documentary looks to the first all-female metal band in the Middle East.
The response to our film screenings has been largely positive, and we've sold quite a bit of tickets for the weekend.
There are still tickets for Esparza's favorite of the festival, Mars One. The Brazilian film looks to a lower middle-class family and the young son who dreams of being an astrophysicist.
Meu sonho é vir astrofísico.
The film really touched me because it takes this idea of like dreams deferred and the obstacles that present themselves, but how when things don't go right, there's still a path forward. The film left me feeling really, really hopeful and really, really caring about this family.
And if watching films inside a cinema, even with masks, is not for you, then there will be outdoor screenings of Sundance shorts in the adjacent courtyard.
It'll give even casual supporters of the digital gym cinema an idea of what the type of programming and film activations that we're going to conduct here, or that we're going to produce here at our space on a year-round basis.
I'm excited to see the rebirth of this micro cinema, since I've spent 6 years programming special events at the old digital gym venue. And enough San Diego cinephiles share that excitement to have already sold out one screening. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
We hope that you enjoyed this look at KPBS News this week. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Thanks for joining us.